Thank you. We will now take our President's opening remarks from the newly elected President of the Patriots, Comrade Lenroy James.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Madam Moderator, Mr. Mark Golding, President of the People's National Party and Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Ndale Young, Youth Executive of the People's National Movement in Trinidad and Tobago. The Honorable Minister Bacchus Roll, Minister of Youth and Sport of the Progressive Liberal Party of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Mr. Ethan Adderley, Deputy National Treasurer of the Free National Movement Party of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Members of Parliament, members of the Senate, members of the PNP Executive, members of the PNP Women's Movement, members of the National Workers Union, members of the PNP-YO, members of the PNP, members and prospective members of the Patriots. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the Patriots National Congress 2021, which is being held under the theme, Evolution of Political Branding, Ideology versus Consumer. The Patriots is a proud young professional affiliate of the People's National Party. Among other things, we advocate the policy views of the young professional electorate and promote political, social, and cultural development of Jamaica in line with democracy, equity, and justice. We are an inclusive organization. We believe that political ideology inspires policy. Therefore, we are comrades. We strongly believe in the founding principles of the PNP, which have resulted in numerous policies that put people first. As such, we have a duty to maintain our ideology, which is still critical to development of this country. While we work assiduously on the party's image to ensure that the electorate understands our ideology and how it has and continues to benefit our country. It is the balance we must aim for, maintaining our ideology whilst being attractive to the voter. The Patriots takes this opportunity to commend Comrade Leader Mark Golding on his firm resolve towards unity, rebranding, and rebuilding even amidst turbulent circumstances which often accompany change. Mr. Golding, as President, I guarantee you that you will have the support of this organization along this crucial journey. While we want to form the next government, we must also recognize the internal work which must be done to make the party attractive to the electorate. We will play our role in pulling comrades together so that the electorate will focus less on squabbles and more on the brilliant solutions being put forward by this noble movement. Mr. Ndale Young, we are pleased to have you as our keynote speaker. Your presence is symbolic in that you hail from our sister party in Trinidad and Tobago, the People's National Movement. We share a lot in common, including the fact that the PNM is the oldest party in that country and the one which has won the most elections. Your participation today also strengthens the argument for regional integration. As a government, the PNP has always enjoyed mutually beneficial relationships with other countries, regionally and internationally. Moreover, members of the Patriots can be inspired by you, a young professional making a great impact on his party and country. As young professionals, the Patriots pays keen attention to international policies that guide development, some of which we have found to be consistent with the ideologies of the PNP. Universal access to healthcare is easily accessible in countries like Germany, the United Kingdom, Singapore, and Switzerland. All have free healthcare. Any state-sponsored healthcare program is a socialist program by its very nature. The countries mentioned earlier have shown that it works and works well when properly managed. Simply put, programs to the north of Jamaica, such as Medicaid and Medicare, would definitely fit this bill. It necessarily follows that universal access to education is again a left-of-center policy program, as it involves state-sponsored education. Norway, Sweden, Austria, Finland, and Belgium are known for free education. Many Jamaicans and some patriots have benefited from these facilities. Jamaica stands to profit from the opportunities available for capacity building to grow our nation, once we can get more persons educated and trained. A multifaceted approach to universal education is something that we should explore. Essentially, we are socialists, and we subscribe to the principles of democratic socialism, which causes us to believe that women are our equals, children deserve our protection and care, and we have a right to life, clean water, food, gainful employment, shelter, safety, and more recently, a reliable data connection. As our membership is made up of young professionals, both locally and internationally, the Patriots occupies a unique position to bridge the divide between countries that have had great successes in development and small island developing states like Jamaica. Many of these countries are willing to share their knowledge and technology. It would be remiss of me at this point if I did not thank the Embassy of China in Jamaica for offering the Patriots capacity building opportunities in China 2 years ago. Our membership has seen the benefits, and we eagerly await the reopening of borders and international travel so that we can once again embark on another round of education and training programs. The Patriots believes that we should lead the digital progression and the digitization of our processes. Therefore, we champion the use of technology and integration of existing systems with digital ones. We encourage everyone to visit our website to see some of the work that we're doing and apply for membership at www.thepnppatriots.org. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at the PNP Patriots Annual Congress 2021. We are indeed powerful together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade President. I just would like to use this opportunity to welcome those who just joined us. I'm seeing MP Julian Robinson, former GenSec, and I'm also seeing members from UCC Visions, as well as President of the NWU. Welcome, and it's a pleasure having you join us. Right now, I am pleased to welcome our party leader, Comrade Mark Golding, to bring greetings.
Thank you very much, Comrade Moderator. I will adopt the protocols that have been observed by the new president of the Patriots, and I wish to congratulate him on his elevation to this position, which I think augurs well. And I like the way that the transition has been handled with a minimum of any kind of fuss or disruption. And I congratulate the Patriots for the professionalism that they have brought to their processes, as indeed demonstrated by the way in which this Zoom has been conducted as well so far. I want to extend a warm welcome to all those who are joining this and participating in this Congress from overseas. We have heard that we have, apart from our guest speaker, who I look forward to hearing from shortly, we also have other representatives from Trinidad and from Bahamas. And of course, the Bahamas, in the Bahamas, the PLP has just won a historic landslide victory a couple of days ago. And we commend them and congratulate them and are very grateful that we have a minister from that party joining this Congress today. I want to also acknowledge my colleague, Julian Robinson, who is on the call, I'm told, and of course, the president of the National Workers Union, our affiliate from the labor movement. Comrades, the Patriots are a relatively new body within the People's National Party, started as a party group and became an affiliate, I would say less than 5 years ago. I don't remember the precise time frame, I remember when it was brought to the executive, and it was an initiative which certainly had my support to elevate the status of the Patriots to a full affiliate of the party. The reality is that the demographic support that the People's National Party enjoys among the Jamaican electorate has been, in recent times, strongly biased in a sense towards older voters. We typically do much better among older voters than we have been among younger voters. And I think part of the reason for this is the fact that in the 1970s, which was really the heyday of the progressive policies of the party since independence, when major transformation took place, social transformation to essentially decolonize Jamaica. Because although we got independence in 1962, when we came to office a decade later in 1972, the previous government of the Jamaica Labour Party had really done very little to change the social landscape of the country and to ensure that independence didn't just mean a continuation of the colonial status quo, but with a sovereign status internationally, but rather was a far more deep and meaningful transformation of the society from one in which the majority of our people were regarded essentially as second-class citizens to one in which every Jamaican, regardless of color, ethnicity, or class, was an equal stakeholder in the society with full citizenship and full recognition. And it was the PNP government in the 1970s, which in a variety of ways and with a number of important pieces of legislation and other programs, achieved that for Jamaica. And many of the older voters look at that as the most important political initiative in their lifetime and will never stop supporting us as long as we continue to represent a progressive worldview. Among younger voters, on the other hand, many of them, I think, grew up in a period of time when we were in office for 18 years. And it was at a time when we had to adjust our outlook towards economic organization in particular, after the demise of the Cold War, the ending of that, and the triumph of globalization across the world, and the triumph of the Western approach to economic management, which came out of the collapse of the Eastern Bloc. And this was really due to Michael Manley's adaptability and flexibility of his intellect, we were able to make a quantum shift towards accepting the primacy of the marketplace in economic organization without abandoning our commitment to the empowerment of the masses and to making a market system work in a way which didn't disadvantage or disenfranchise or discriminate against the less fortunate in the society. And in the 18 years that we were in government, our policies around that time were really about building the economy, building the infrastructure of the economy, modernizing the economy in the ports and the telecoms and many different areas. And we also had some important institutional developments, National Health Fund, Chase Fund, and so on. But I think younger people coming out of that long period of government, when I think we got a bit complacent within the party and weren't focused enough on renewing ourselves as a party and renewing our organization to make it fresh and attractive on an ongoing basis, we ceded some ground to our opponents. And this is why I think the Patriots have such a critical role to play going forward in this era, because we need to recapture the hearts and minds of younger voters. And I think the Patriots is well positioned to lead the charge in this regard, because many of the persons who joined the Patriots are young persons who are upwardly mobile, who have achieved some amount of success already in their lives, whatever their origins in terms of, you know, the backgrounds that they are coming out of, the homes they are coming out of, whatever their circumstances in life may have been. The Patriots has an image, I think, of persons who are going places, persons who have achieved professional qualifications and typically tertiary education and so on. So to aspiring young people in Jamaica who want to see progress in their own lives, the Patriots, I think, represents an institution within the party that they will identify with readily. So I would encourage the Patriots under its new leadership to continue to treat with outreach as a very important aspect of what you are about at this time. Grow the organization aggressively. I'm glad that you are already in almost all parishes, as I understand it. When I last checked, I think you had recognized Patriot groupings in virtually all. I don't think it was all, but virtually all of the parishes. And I would urge you to continue your build out there, deepen your roots in each constituency. And we want to get to the point where every constituency executive has a Patriots member on it, in the same way that the Constitution now requires that for the youth organization and the women's movement and the NWU. We want to get to the point where the Patriots are at a stage where they will be represented, and even at the divisional level ultimately. Because, as I've said, for us to look like an organization that young people can feel part of, can relate to, and which they can see reflecting their aspirations to move forward in life, the Patriots has a very vital role to play in that regard. Moving on from that theme, we are living at a time in Jamaica and indeed in the world where we are facing extraordinary challenges. In Jamaica, the COVID pandemic has been mismanaged, in our opinion. We have seen a series of poor decisions which have resulted in Jamaica reaching a very negative point of high positivity rates of infection, death rates which are frighteningly high, and our health system is effectively overwhelmed at this time. I can tell you, I mean, one of our colleagues was in a car accident in Trelawney on Friday, broke 3 ribs and a hip, and has had to be transferred to the Cornwall Regional Hospital, and has been on a stretcher since then because there is no bed for him to be put on. And, you know, we have tried to intervene and see what we can do about that situation, but it's just symptomatic of where the health system is now. This is not a time to get ill. So there's been mismanagement of it. The oxygen crisis in August, where we ran out of oxygen in public health facilities, are very, very low. And there were reports of numerous deaths as a result. So far, no accountability for any of that, despite our call for the resignation of the health minister and for an independent inquiry into what happened and why. That is one issue. And the C's, we've identified the theme of the 3 C's: COVID, crime, and the cost of living. The crime situation continues to be completely out of control in Jamaica. Murders are up 10% this year. The Minister of National Security is virtually silent. The Prime Minister has very little to say about it. And we see no new initiatives, no clear thinking about how to get the situation under control. And there's a sense of fear and hopelessness in the affected communities. Last week, myself and the shadow spokesman for national security visited a home where 4 persons had been murdered the night before. And all of them, by all reports, were innocent persons and were simply the victims of a reprisal that was supposed to have been targeted on a relative of theirs. And this is not unique in Jamaica. We have these things happening far too often. And then, of course, the cost of living. I can tell you that although our inflation rate has been generally, though not for August, but generally within the band set by the central bank of 4 to 6%, it went slightly out of the band in August, a bit higher than 6%, 6.1, I think. But the reality of it is, if you look at the basic food items on which people depend, especially the lower socioeconomic groups, if we did an exercise comparing an invoice for a certain set of items, basic items, that we got in April from a leading wholesaler, and we got a similar invoice for the same quantities and the same items in August, and between April and August, there had been an increase of 14% in those prices. And that is in about 6 months. So the people are feeling it. And there is significant suffering and hardship among the population of the country now. And the people are getting fed up with the government, and I think it is recognized that they have strong skills in the area of public relations and communication, but in substance, they cannot be trusted. And there's this idea of the two Jamaicas, which has emerged so starkly in the last few months. The idea that there in Jamaica, we have one set of rules that apply to ordinary people, the unconnected, the less fortunate, or those who generally don't have the kind of network of friends and associates that give them some kind of power. And instead, there is another group, the well-connected and the affluent, and the politically connected, who do not need to comply with their own rules. And we have seen it in numerous instances, most recently, where there was an outcry leading to the resignation of a junior minister, or rather a full minister. And it's unfortunate because he is a young and upcoming politician. And this is not a personal matter, but in principle, he violated the rules of his own government and was caught red-handed and had to go. Comrades, I believe my allotted time has come to an end. I just want to say to you, I'm expecting the Patriots to step up and to be, as I've said, aggressively out there, marketing themselves and marketing the PNP for young professionals. We want to see growth. We want to see a deepening of your connections and your network and your organization, and you will enjoy my full support in these things. And I congratulate you on your changing of the guard. I wish to congratulate Omar Newell, Comrade Newell, for a job well done. And I look forward to working with Comrade Lenroy James and his team going forward. Comrades, I think you've put on a wonderful conference. It's a good look. Congratulations to the Patriots team for all you are doing. And thank you for having me. God bless you all.
Thank you, Comrade Leader, and God bless you too. We will certainly take the charge and ensure that we deepen our roots within the party and engage young people and in Jamaica and abroad to ensure that we continue to bring the message of hope and advance the ideologies of the Patriots as well as the PNP. Now, without further ado, I'll move over to our next speaker, and that is our immediate past president, Comrade Omar Newell. He will bring greetings and introduction to our guest speaker. Omar, over to you, Comrade.
Thank you, Comrade Nariesha. Let me just welcome Comrade Mikhail, who joined recently. Comrade Chair, Comrade President, special guests, Comrade Leader, comrades, friends, well-wishers, good afternoon. Today marks both the ending of my presidency and the beginning of one of the most amazing times in the organization. I'm grateful for having had the opportunity to serve as your president and ask that you continue to throw your energies and support behind your new president, my friend and brother, Comrade Lenroy James. Lenroy has the necessary vision and temperament to lead the organization as we focus on the tasks of holding the government accountable and leading in uniting this great political movement of ours. Any casual observer of local news will see and be repulsed by the record levels of corruption being presided over by this wholeness administration. Their corruption has been sucking the oxygen out of Jamaicans. We now know that what happened under Wheatley, Newell, Reid and company is symptomatic of a political party with a culture and an appetite for corruption. Just look at what is happening now with the airport authority. Over the last 2 years, while the government bungled the procurement of tablets for poorest students, record numbers of Jamaican students have been left behind by a system that was already less than adequate. Very little has been done to address the unavailability of devices to many of our students. While some countries have been providing tablets and laptops, we have continued a nonsensical policy of taxing the importation of tablets. No policy prescription has been put forward to deal with the data deserts all across Jamaica, where children, even if lucky enough to have a device, are unable to attend virtually as they have no internet connection. Very little has been done to address the nutrition needs of thousands of children whose most nutritious meal in times past were the meals they received when they attended school as students and PATH. The government is sucking the oxygen out of Jamaicans with their management of education. The People's Party has to be ready. It is our responsibility to hold the government accountable and present the people with an alternative. But we cannot unless we are united. I grew up hearing that a united People's National Party is an unstoppable political force, that no political party anywhere can beat the PNP when we're on the same page. The divisions that have dogged us for the last decade and a half must stop if we are to rescue Jamaica. Over the 3 years I've served as president, we have done some amazing things together. We led the process to become an affiliate of the PNP with appropriate representation on all the structures of the party. And we must use these structures to ensure unity. We built out an organization with chapters in almost every parish of Jamaica. We worked on campaigns, every by-election, the last general election. There were times when we were the only organization with ads running on traditional and social media. We helped to feed hundreds of people across Jamaica. I'm leaving the organization stronger than I found it, and I'm confident that Lenroy will build on that foundation and leave the organization stronger than he found it. One of the things I set out to do in my presidency was to rebuild relationships with the PNP's fraternal parties. With the support of my team, we built a close partnership with the Communist Party of China. And Lenroy spoke about some of the benefits. We met with former president and current VP of Guyana, Barrett Jagdeo, and several of his young parliamentarians in Georgetown. And importantly, we reached out to our sister party, the People's National Movement, founded by that great West Indian, Eric Williams. The PNP and the PNM have a long history of collaboration. When I had the opportunity to meet with today's speaker in Port of Spain, we agreed on the importance of keeping that vital link between both political parties and that we would lead in bridging. We further agreed that a relationship would be established between the Patriots and our counterparts, the Haliconia Foundation for Young Professionals. Some of our plans have been affected by COVID. We're planning to do annual trips between countries. But today's speaker will be a key driver of that deepening of the relationship with the PNM. Ndale already has over 20 years of experience as a member of the PNM, and he has served on a number of elected and appointed positions. He has served at the local, constituency, regional, and national levels within his party. He was elected PNM Youth Officer in 2018, and he has led philanthropic efforts that have impacted people in Ghana, Jamaica, and Venezuela. A man of letters, Ndale has certifications from prestigious institutions such as the University of Greenwich and the International Center for Parliamentary Studies, covering a wide range of disciplines. Ndale is no stranger to Jamaica and the PNP. He has no qualms about speaking of the affection he has for former party president, Comrade Simpson Miller. He has spent extended periods on our island, and if he had the opportunity, I assure you, he would be a PNP voter. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a treat as I present to you my friend, Comrade Ndale Young.
Pleasant good afternoon. Can you hear me, Omar?
I'm hearing you clearly.
Oh, pleasant good afternoon to each and every one of you. I want to congratulate our new comrade leader in the sphere of the Patriots. I know, Omar, you would have flown that flag so high that there are people even dismissed from all over, but I would not have missed this for the world. Allow me the opportunity also to bring greetings on behalf of the political leader of the People's National Movement, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. And I want to also send my greetings out to your comrade leader, Mr. Mark Golding. I know that he has a task before him. And as you so rightfully put it, I think long before I was where I am now in the PNM, I think I was more involved in PNP politics. I think I'm a PNP member before I'm a member, to be honest. But that could be, that could be, a touchy subject. This evening, it is my job simply to say to everyone who is here that you have a wonderful, you sit in a place to make a difference in the lives of people, and I believe in the PNP. I believe in the island. It's a blessed place. So let me just start by introducing myself. My name is Ndale Young. I hail from the constituency of Barataria, San Juan, in this wonderful island of Trinidad and Tobago. Can you all hear me? Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
All right, good. Yeah, in this wonderful island of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, in my younger years, because I'm still yet young, I remember coming to Jamaica, and I think it was maybe in 2007, 2008, and I came into Jamaica, and when I touched down at, I was Sangsa Airport at the time, I saw the beauty of Jamaica. I said, I don't think nowhere in Trinidad or Tobago, now I won't say this anywhere else, right? And I know you're recording, but don't share this in Trinidad. Nowhere I found on the island of Trinidad and Tobago was as beautiful as Jamaica was. And then when I met the people, I found that the people were the warmest people that I've ever come across and the most direct. And for that, I felt at home because I don't know much. I don't pull punches very much. I hold a bachelor's in information technology. I hold my master's in communications and in foreign diplomacy. And for the period of time that I have been in Jamaica, back and forth, every time I come to Jamaica, it's a new experience. Every time I come to Jamaica, it's a new horizon. Now, in the year 2009, I had the honor to meet your previous comrade leader, Ms. Portia Miller Simpson, we call her Sister P, and it was the greatest experience with a political leader that I've had to that date. Because we were at the Pegasus Hotel, and she came into the upstairs to the 14th floor to the Royal Suite. And when she came out of the elevator, she stood so tall. They told me she was tall, but she stood like 14 feet tall because she was so upright and came straight up on me. Now, let me be honest with you. I was most intimidated just by the presence of this lady. And I'm not usually intimidated. Not to mention, the people who are around, guards, but she just came straight up on you. Hi, young man. My name is Portia Miller Simpson, and she, I just began to speak and say, ma'am, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. She said, no, Sister P is good enough. And I fell in love with her in about an hour. She sat down with me. At the point in time, my spiritual leader, Dr. Leslie Rogers, who's known in Jamaica as well, we came to establish a church in Jamaica. It's called GWF. We actually named that church under, Prophet Andrew at the time. And in that sphere that I was sitting there, she took that time out to sit and speak to me for an hour. And what that said to me is that she came on her own business, but took an hour out of her time to speak to me directly. And when I felt the love that she gave me, and I felt she was paying attention to the ideas that I had, and I mean, I'm young and just coming to the island and say, listen, you all have all these resources. We need to do this. I think we could get gas for you from Trinidad. We could do this. We could provide diesel. And she, immediately after I left and returned to Trinidad, she wrote me a text. She sent me a text and said, listen, I'm awaiting the report on these items. And I was shocked that the Prime Minister of Jamaica at the time took her time out of a day, and all of the grand ideas that I had, she wanted a report, and she wanted to make sure that we were delivering on the things that we said we would do. And it is in that vein that I come to you all this morning to have a brief discussion, and for us to have a discussion that we understand what we are here for. As young professionals, we have an opportunity to change the manner in which we lead the world, the manner in which we lead our country. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have the equivalent of the Patriots. We call it the Heliconia Foundation, as Comrade Omar would have indicated. And the Heliconia Foundation is filled with a number of young, smart, bright professionals that is leading Trinidad and Tobago in changing the dynamics of the country. And with me this evening, I am going to just ask for leave to be able to ask our leader in Tobago here, our chairman in Tobago, just to bring greetings on behalf of the Heliconia before we move forward. Because it's not my intention for us to just talk all day. I want to hear, even from those of you who are sitting in the new positions, what is our intention moving forward? And how can we help from Trinidad to deliver PNP back to where they ought to be? So at this time, I think I'll make way for Mr. Shamari Hector, and he will bring greetings on behalf of the Heliconia.
Thank you kindly. Can you see me?
Yes, we are seeing and hearing you clearly. You're muted now, though.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are clear.
Nice, thank you. Permit me to associate myself with the already established protocol, but to claim sufficient liberty to recognize leader of the opposition and political leader of the PNP, the Right Honorable Mark Gordon. Permit me to also to recognize Senator the Honorable Ndale Young, Youth Officer of the People's National Movement and today's keynote speaker, comrade leaders outgoing and incoming, other members of the executive of the Patriots, other members of the executive of the Heliconia Foundation for Young Professionals. All good afternoon. Permit me also, even in his absence, to recognize my own president of the Heliconia Foundation for Young Professionals, whom I regard as the Right Honorable Farai Hove Masaisai, who unfortunately couldn't commit to today's engagement owing to other commitments had for both personal and professional causes. My name is Shamari Hector. I'm happy to bring greetings on behalf of the Heliconia Young Professionals, Trinidad and Tobago, and more so in my capacity as chairman of the Heliconia Affairs there on the island of Tobago. Having regard for all that was said, particularly by your leader of opposition, and the very intimate introductions made by our keynote speaker, Comrade Young, I want to just really say how blessed I am today to associate myself with the work that you do as a body of young professionals. It was called Earl Cameroon in the 2005 film, The Interpreter, acting as Edmund Zwane and reading from the dedication of a book he wrote decades earlier, The Liberator's Life, who said, "The gunfire around us makes it hard to hear, but the human voice is different from other songs. It can be heard over noises that bury everything else, even when it's not shouting, even when it's just a whisper." He says, even the lowest whisper can be heard over armies when it is telling the truth. In my attempt to bring greetings on behalf of the Heliconia Foundation for Young Professionals to its partner agency and sister organization, the Patriots, I thought that it would be important to rely on the proclivity, the wisdom, and the expertise of screen personality Edmund Zwane to talk about the importance of telling the truth. Like Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago is challenged with certain acts of criminality and violence that almost certainly defines in every honest conversation, not just the social, but the political landscape in which we are forced to operate. But we are advised today that the voice of the liberator, when it echoes the sentiments of honesty and truth, does in fact make a difference, and that it can be heard over the noises, even the armies that drowned out other songs. In this changing of the guards ceremony, I want to use this opportunity to encourage you, officers elected to this noble organization, to let your voices be heard, to challenge the status quo, to not go quietly into that night, or like the Apaches would have done, pack up and steal away under the covers of darkness. Instead, I want to encourage you to echo the sentiments of truth widely and loudly, forcefully, understanding that the power and vitality of truth is not in its ability to be supported by evidence, nor is it in its ability to be defended by facts. Truth's true power and vitality is not even in its ability to be introduced by proof. No, the true power and vitality of the truth is its ability to be tempered by love. And so even as you engage in these very sensitive, topical, national, and global conversations that will challenge the status quo, repurpose your destiny, and redefine your sense of usefulness, I urge you to speak your truth, though whisper or shout with loud voices, to do so with the essence of love. The world is looking for leaders who, of course, will make a difference. Leaders who will show a true sense of harmony, solidarity, and camaraderie. You are tasked with a responsibility, therefore, to shout from the rooftop the truth of the situation, but to speak with force, with passionate force and lovingly, the solutions that can transform the quality of our lives, both politically and materially. It was what's his name? Professor Ken Julian, who said, excellence is a moving target, that as you achieve one peak of performance, others appear ahead, demanding further steps towards excellence. I am of the view, and so too will be echoed the sentiments by Comrade Ndale, that this is one such step in the direction of perfection towards the attainment and the achievement of true excellence. And so on behalf of my own president, the Right Honorable Farai Hope Masai, on behalf of the Heliconia Foundations of Young Professionals of Trinidad and Tobago, on behalf of the Tobago chapter of this foundation and that of my own behalf, permit me to congratulate you on this record-breaking initiative that sees to the changing of the guards that allow for the work of improvement to be carried further and for that to be done together. And so as you signify, embellish, and distinguish today and punctuate it with your own introductions, your own contributions, your own expertise, and the wisdom of your very own counsel, may we all use this as an opportunity to go further, reach higher, and do better, not just by the Patriots, but by the people of Jamaica, and I dare say the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I love you, God bless you, thank you, congratulations, good afternoon.
So thank you very much, Shmari Hector, my distinguished leader in Tobago. And I'm proud as the youth officer of the People's National Movement, and Heliconia being one of the arms that is under my purview, always proud of Shmari to put forward any contribution, because he is genuinely one of the great orators that I think will come out of this country. And more so, he backs it up with the actions. Now, this relationship between the PNM and the PNP is one that has been established over our 65 years of existence. As a matter of fact, in the time of our beginning, Dr. Eric Williams would have formulated the Constitution of the People's National Movement and would have sent that Constitution to the great Norman Manley for him to be able to vet, because the PNP was established years before the PNM. And even in the vetting of that Constitution, a number of the things that the PNM does here in Trinidad and Tobago would have been as a result of the leadership of the PNP. So I want to bring thanks all the way from Trinidad for that steadfast leadership that continues to come out of Jamaica towards the Caribbean. Added to which, in the moving forward in these years, it is my opinion that the times have come for us to take into consideration not only what is before us in the recent times, in terms of the pandemic, in terms of these type of global operations, but where we can move our islands to a state of self-existence amongst ourselves. I think the strengthening of ties between nations will lead and see us stand even better on the backs and on the necks, on the backs and the shoulders of the leaders that have gone before us. In this time, I want to speak to the youth of Jamaica. I want to speak to the professional youth of Jamaica. And I also want to speak to the political professional youth of Jamaica. I think when you sit and think about it, I don't know how it is in Jamaica, but I tell you in Trinidad, when someone becomes a professional, they're convinced. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Hearing you now.
You may go ahead.
Yeah, so we just had a bit of operation. Now, there is this view that when you become professional, that somehow you stand head and shoulders above others. As a matter of fact, in Trinidad and Tobago, I tell people, I don't want, even amongst our doctors and our lawyers and all of the professionals that I come into contact with, I take cognizance of the fact that you have compassion. I take cognizance in terms of your comportment when it comes to just being mannerly. Because the more we are empowered and endowed to be able to learn, is the more that it is incumbent upon us to share. The more it is incumbent upon us to take care of those that are unable to. And one of the things I admire about Jamaica is that you all have been forged by the adversities of the island into a people that seemingly is unstoppable on the face of the earth. From the music that you put out, that the world listen and dance and has called, you all have changed the landscape of music across the world, to our recent and not so recent feats in athletics, track and field, and other areas. And as a Caribbean member, I feel proud to be Jamaican by extension whenever I hear the echoes of Jamaica across the world. Now, I think as a professional, it is incumbent upon us not only to become the best in class in our own discipline, but to step out of the box and make a difference in the lives of our people. So many people in this time are caught up getting a paper, just getting your certification, just so that you can add letters to your name. But you make no difference in the community. Why do you have a master's in business and you don't own one? How can you make an influence if you have studied innovation in business and nothing new comes out? Because adversity gives us the opportunity to try new stuff. You see, if things working, we won't have a chance to do anything better, you know. But it is the adversity that faces Jamaica. I tell my peers when I see them in Trinidad, in Jamaica, you have to find your money to pay to go to school, you know. This free school that you all are accustomed to, and free tertiary education and all these things, you're gonna have to find, and because of that, the level of discipline and the level and the standard of people that come out to Jamaica, most times I'm proud of even the Jamaican comrades that we have in Trinidad working, our engineers, our accountants. I'm telling you, the architects, there are disciplines in Trinidad that most times if I call for an architect, if he's not Jamaican, I'm kind of a little bit worried if I'll get her. I'm too sure. Because I'm sure when I ask for someone to give me the best, most times, the name attached to it, sure is Jamaican. Now, having said that, it is incumbent upon me to let you know the uphill battle that you face now, while in opposition, is what will define your party for the rest of your life and its life. As a matter of fact, the PNM and the PNP share such similar battles that I can tell you the PNM is built up in opposition. Most times we've been in power for 2 consecutive seasons, and as the youth officer of the party, the challenge now is to ensure that while whatever is happening and in this pandemic, that the party and the party's youths stay relevant and they stay connected and they stay interested. Because it's so easy just to say they are not doing. But in opposition, you can take time to reflect and to deal with the issues. As a matter of fact, so important it is that my last meeting with Sister P was at the point in time when she should have lost the last election. And we came in just for the inauguration of the new Prime Minister. And we sat and we met with her to discuss how we could help from Trinidad in terms of advice and building the party and building youths going forward. So I have and continue to be committed to not only the PNP, but to Jamaica in that type of way, because I believe that when the PNP is in power, the building of Jamaica is clear. We can point out landmarks that we have come to under the PNP. And this is with because I'm from Trinidad, I can't enter into the banter of politics in Jamaica, but I can tell you, I can attest to the things that I've seen on behalf of the PNP. One of the things as the nation's youth, I think it's incumbent to realize, is that there are a number of challenges. I say hats off to Comrade Mark with the manner in which he engages the youth. I've been looking even on his social media and that kind of thing, and that with the robust youth policy that he carries, because as younger people, sometimes handing the baton over becomes a difficult challenge. I know that you all also have a party group system and that type of thing, and sometimes, oh God, Sister Enid wouldn't go home. She has to be party group chairman for 30 years. And all we get to do is sign a little paper, and they want us to put out chairs, and they want us to do registration. Those of us who come from that background in the heart of the party understand that language. And as youth in the country, many countries boast that our nation's youth are our future, but the investment in the youth is not always seen, is not always felt by the youth. And many times that investment takes the form of what sometimes the older heads would like to have you do, and not what you think could make a difference in the country. But then when you become a professional, as a professional youth, the thought process is, I am entering into this profession to make a difference, not only in my life, not only to make a good living for myself, but to make a contribution to Jamaica in a serious manner. And oftentimes when we make these contributions or when we set out towards these disciplines, we feel onerous to the discipline to the point that sometimes you may forget the country as a whole. But I implore those of you young professionals that hold your necessary disciplines, remember at all times that all that you have been given has been given by God. And all of the things that you set out to do should build your nation, not just your pockets. And therefore, as a political youth that is a professional, sometimes that balance is going to be something that's going to challenge you. Because your discipline says we ought not to do this. And some of the things are not justified by nothing else but political expedience. Some of the decisions being made, some of the decisions in terms of appointments, some of the things that we will have to face when we attain the reins of power again, are going to be decisions that may coincide with your professional view, with your political opinion, your professional view may clash at times. But that is a balance that you have to balance, like Lady Justice, between providing the party as an affiliate with an honest and direct view of the direction that they're going, whether good or bad, and also towing party line to understand that it is in the progression of the PNP we will be able to take reins. It is in the coming together, because a house divided will not stand. And I heard the comrade speak about the division of the house, and I can tell you, the same goes for the PNM in Trinidad and Tobago. As long as we are together, all comers stand no chance. But oftentimes it's ourselves that vote ourselves out, because sometimes we don't listen to ourselves. So I implore those of you who have the opportunity to go into the communities and hear and take cognizance of what the needs are. And remember, while we point out the corruption, while we point out all of the ills of the present regime, your turn is coming. You're going to get the opportunity, young man. Young lady, you will be sitting in that position someday soon. What is unless you are able to govern yourself, unless you take control of yourself, unless you understand that in this moment that you're moving forward, you have to have that control. If not, you will not be able to withstand the reins of power. Because many people who are caught up, like the point of the comrade, in the government, that got caught in the picture and his subsequent resignation, it's something that anybody could have, it's not something that is unusual or outlandish. It might have not been smart at the time. But I'm saying you can easily fall into that category if you don't pay attention to your surroundings, to the things that you're saying, to what you're doing, because it is so easy when you're standing in the reins of power to fall into such traps. So I don't want us to continue to speak about things that we all have an understanding of. But what I want to do at this time is that from Trinidad and Tobago, I am making a commitment as youth officer to assist in any manner that we can, whether it is by sharing of knowledge, whether it is we need to be able to provide some type of conduit, that we can provide professional services, that we can provide amenities, whatever Jamaica may need, the PNP may need in its quest to return to its rightful place. I am asking you now, speak to me. I'm opening the floor for questions. I'm opening the floor for possibilities. We're opening for to hear from you how the PNM could make a difference in the PNP and in the Patriots organization. So I'm going to ask the moderator to open for questions at this time, and we're going to be able to answer those as we go along.
Thank you, Ndale, for a well-delivered speech. And as he has indicated, everyone, the floor is now open. We will take about 10 minutes of questions. If anyone has any burning questions that they'd like to ask, now is the time to do so. You can just indicate by selecting the raise your hand icon and you will be acknowledged.
So I'm seeing Maureen Weber.
Oh, good afternoon, Comrade Weber. She is a former GenSec of the Patriots. Sorry, the PNP.
Former General Secretary.
Former Deputy GenSec. My apologies. Comrade Weber.
Comrade Weber, I think you're still on mute.
Okay, I just have a question for you.
Sure.
What is the ideology or the philosophy of your party at this time? If you were to give it in 2 sentences. I have a follow-on question that, of course, is In the
The
last
ideology or philosophy in terms of the governance of the country?
no, of the
Or the
political organization, if we were to say, well, what do you currently stand for, and maybe even why, and also how do you market that to the general public? So it's a twofold question. Thank you.
Well, the PNM stands, the PNM, the ideology of the PNM is that we are the builders of the nation. We take responsibility. There's a Greek mythology by the name of Sisyphus. I don't know if any of you are familiar. And the story goes that there's a rock at the top of the mountain that Sisyphus has been placed there to roll, that every time the rock rolls down, Sisyphus has to go and roll that rock back up on the mountain. And as he gets up to the cusp of the mountain and he settles the rock shakes, it's sturdy for a while, goes back down the hill. And at the bottom of the hill, Sisyphus goes back down to roll this rock back up. Now, the end of that mythology says, you must imagine Sisyphus happy. I think the PNM has been inevitably the only party in Trinidad and Tobago that has stand firm for the building of the nation and for setting the standard and bar for any development that takes place. So our ethos now is that we have been in government for the last year, and for the one term, and we're 1 year into our second term. And the ethos now is to continue the development and stabilization of the country in this pandemic, and moving forward to move into this new dynamic age of data. You follow on? Ms. Weber?
Yes, so I guess when I said the word ideology as opposed to ethos, it's like in the past we were democratic socialists, we were this, we were different kinds of things. Is there a guiding thing that sets the stage for how you do development work for your own country?
No, we don't hold in terms of an ideology. We don't hold that ideology anymore. Because in our own development, as you set out, we have been socialists in that regard, but as you set out to this continuous development, you recognize that there are sometimes a blurring of the lines. So instead of holding true to one ideology, sometimes the circumstance, especially in the last year or two in this pandemic, requires that something you may step out, you might step out from the far right into the left, or step out from the left into the middle left, according to the requirements of the what is before you. So as a party, no, we've moved away from the ideology of the socialists.
Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Ryan Simpson. Can you just unmute and ask your question, please?
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, Comrade Young. I'm referring to you as Comrade. Thank you for a very inspiring talk and for opening up for questions. I do appreciate it. Maureen asked the first question that I wanted to ask, which was about philosophy. Now, I want to ask you, in terms of your party in Trinidad, what role does social media play, or do you have a social media policy such that when your party hosts virtual meetings, you can be assured of a certain presence through the social media platform that will give the impression, and sometimes not just the impression, but will represent the reality that you are a robust and strong party. That is good for the party, but it is also an intimidating feature for your opponents. And so that's the first part of my question. The last part is, how is it that you do canvassing at this time? Do you have a first-rate, first-class canvassing mechanism that is reliable and trustworthy? Thank you.
Okay, I mean, these are interesting questions. First of all, let me just say that under the leadership of Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, we have seen several changes in the party. So, for example, our first change was that we moved from a delegate system to be able to elect a leader and into a one-man, one-vote. So nationwide, as long as you're a member of the party. I think it was commendable the fact that he would have been the leader at the time to move into a one-man, one-vote, which makes it a wider cross-section. But if you're really just trying to gain power, it might be a little bit harder because you don't have to convince the masses as opposed to, having one or two delegates. Another thing that he has instituted is having a social media policy and a social media officer in particular. So in 2018 would have been the first time we would have installed as part of the national executive, a social media officer, and every constituency now has its own social media officer, and there's a social media officer constituency, and a policy that guides that social media, because it can be so easy to just be dragged into the quagmire of banter and back and forth. And so we now, yes, we have a robust social media policy, and we now have social media officers, and we've seen the uptake. And the truth about it is, it was more or less prophetic, because at the point in time the pandemic was not a thing. But in recognizing that there was no longer a feature but a requirement, an obligation to be able to have social media presence in everything, and that the platform stood as a platform that, unlike in times past, that you could have probably just sent something out on the radio, you could, the blowhorn that passed through the community. I don't know if you all have those in Jamaica, the loudspeakers in the community and that kind of thing. But the social media became such a viable place, even to put your arguments forward and to be able to debate the issues, because now you had, like I'm doing now, you could have gotten responses directly from the people on the issues. So social media has now been entrenched in our constitution, and it's now been entrenched in our party, and it even guides policy, because some of the things that we do when we have our meetings and that kind of thing goes out, even when we are having consultation, goes out via the social media network. And that consultation, all of the comments and questions raised there, that's sorted out by the social media officer, and then tabled in the General Council, which is our monthly general meeting, as to any issues in particular that may have slipped anybody. So you have a more robust and consultative process. Secondly, in terms of canvassing, I don't know if you all have been through an election in the pandemic. Have you all had an election in the pandemic?
Yes, we have. Yes.
So the PNM is usually one of the things that we boast, is that we have a very mean machinery. A lot of times our opposition may underestimate and may overcompensate with what we call air war, which is the ads and the billboards and the spending of ridiculous amounts of money. But we know who our customers are. That's what we boast. So because we know who our members are and we know who our voters are, we are able to reach them. But in this last election that we had, it was a serious challenge, because canvassing now became an issue of how do we involve some type of online presence, whether it be through social media or through particular apps, but with the understanding as well that in Trinidad and Tobago, the voting population still is largely an elderly population. And more importantly, the reliable voting population is not necessarily youth, because you may see the youths and they may say and they may be involved, and tomorrow they may change their mind, they may not go and vote. But you sure that my 89-year-old grandmother, she's getting dressed at 5:30 in the morning, and she's voting number 1, 2, or 3 consecutive now. And those are the people that now became a challenge to canvass. Although we knew who they were and we know their persuasion, it became a bit of a challenge now with the issue of the pandemic and not being able to touch them, because that group is a group that you didn't want to expose because they were most vulnerable. That became a challenge to us. So yeah, we did implement some apps and that kind of thing, but ultimately what it led to is that we had to rely on our community leaders and the what we call our regional captains and that kind of thing to really know the population in a particular way because we were unable to touch base door to door, the manner that we usually are able to do. We usually, in any particular constituency, we try to get door to door to each person at least twice during the election. And in best case scenarios, you should see everyone that you intend to vote for you 3 times before the election is called. That's just like a rule of thumb. Anyone else?
Permit me, Comrade Young, to just jump in with a Tobago-centric perspective there. In the last THA elections of 2021, which was held in January, was done like the national elections in a COVID climate. But Tobago being a smaller population size, we were able to try to pilot the whole involvement of the digital transformation and the digital integration into the way we reach our internal clients and customers to get them out to the polls. A lot of handicaps were evident as a result of the newness of that, because digital transformation is not automatic or easy. But we are very fortunate to be having a second election, hopefully a second election in less than a 12-month period or just about, where we are really hoping to tighten that. One of the things that led to this type of radical transformation, like Comrade Young would have indicated, is the Prime Minister's call for young people to take greater responsibility for their future. And of course, you know, the demographic of the young people and the standards of engagement for them is online engagement. And so, whereas it does pose a challenge in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the things that we've undertaken in Tobago is to attempt to introduce the Intelligent Island Policy or Initiative, where every Tobagonian will be represented by a digital personality or persona, which will make it easy to be engaged using remote technologies and distant infrastructure based on infoware and info tech and infrastructures. And so, whereas it offers a formidable challenge now, we are hoping particularly that Tobago model, because of the smaller population size, can be a guiding force, having piloted that initiative there to really transform the way we do politics in the national context.
Okay, Madam Moderator, I'm seeing a question, I believe, in the comments.
Chat. Yes,
Yeah.
there is a question in the chat.
Mhm.
You could go ahead, or if you wish for me to read it for you.
Read it out, because it just popped in, but I don't want to be.
So in the chat from Socialist Sam, the question is, in Jamaica, there's a crossover between the PNP-YO and the Patriots. We believe PNP-YO should start at 16 and end at 25, and the Patriots start at 26 and end at 35. How are things in Trinidad?
So when they say we believe, what is the structure now?
As it is now, the YO, I believe, starts at 15. Guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to 31, and the Patriots to 33, sorry, above.
Oh, and what is above? What is the upper limit of the Patriots?
I believe early 40s.
Okay. So far. Now, this in Trinidad is the source of a number of contentions. And these are things that I came in and met as youth officer. And let me just say, it is that way in Trinidad. So in Trinidad, from 13, you can join from 13 to 25 is what we call the Youth League, which is, I think, is like your YO youth organization. So we have a Youth League. And each constituency has its own Youth League. And then we have the National Youth League. So similar to the General Council, there's a National Youth League, and then there's a chairman of the National Youth. After 25, from 26 to 40, you are able to be a Heliconian. So, anecdote, this is my last year before they kick me out, because I turned 40 this year. And I'm that the chairman is just waiting just to tell me bye-bye, but before I give them thunder. because I call them to heel at every point I think that they should. And even after that, I think I'll still be youth officer for a little bit. So they still have to deal with me. But so even though this creates the kind of competition that you don't necessarily want, because it says sometimes what it does in Trinidad is that usually the YO or the YL Youth League are traditional PNP, solid PNP or solid PNM people, parents that have their children involved in the organization. I don't know, correct me as I go along if it's the same in Jamaica. So it would really be children of those, stalwarts, people who are heavily involved, officers of the movement. Those children now become involved in the constituency and nationally. The professional group, which is the Heliconia, sometimes may be people who either might have been on the other side and they become professional, or they may be not necessarily heavily involved in party. They may be pro PNP, they may vote PNP, they may belong to the PNP, but they're just not heavily involved. And because of the fact that there's a professional element, in times of appointments, whether it be board appointments or selection for MPs or senators or whatever, it now creates an issue that pool of people, the professional pool, is where a number of people are chosen from, though the more dedicated bunch may be viewed to be the YO or the YL. So what I seek to do in my tenure is to create platforms for both. So at every point in time I appear with my youth officer, I appear with the chairman of the youth league. And we try to be able, with the chairman of Heliconia, the president of Heliconia, I appear with the president of the youth league. So we can create that robust, dynamic belief between both sides. And we try to get, whether it be appointments to boards or to function in parts of local government, we try to have that even keel by not making one part feel more than the other. But there definitely may be a pull and trust between that, because now you will have, I guess, 3 or 4 years where you could either be YO or Patriot, or even both. Yes? So I think it's, in terms of just development as a youth, I may stay away from advising, but I would lean towards having the ages not overlap, because then you have, competition that may not necessarily augur well for the party. There should be a procession from one into the other, especially because there's a professional arm. And I dare say, we have a professional arm. The requirement is having some sort of professional qualification in terms of the Heliconia. And I've indicated to them that we also need to get an arm that has a requirement that does not have the professional requirement, but at least you can be able to have, whether it be some skill or something, because you have a number of contractors and business people that may not have a first degree, but they are basically contributors to the country and have, great ideas and have done great things in the country. We have young manufacturers at 32 that are billionaires at manufacturing, selling products all of the Caribbean into Jamaica. So, that's just my view on it. I don't know if you all would disagree.
Thank you for that. I am seeing a hand raised by Omar. Omar?
And Ndale, tell me a little bit about the role of youth officer, responsibilities, etc. Is that, and where do you see that an officer role within the PNM, or is that some commission chair? Just tell me a little bit about the role and what it entails and where it gets its authority from.
So its moorings would have been from the youth officer. We had a youth officer, male and female, from the inception of the party. So Dr. Williamson, in his wisdom, decided that when the party was founded, that there were 2 groups of people that, though you can be a member anywhere else, you would automatically be a member when you enrolled. The first one was a women's league, who has been the backbone of the party. I won't give the accolade. I used to call them something a long time. Used to say is the FA Brigade. I can't tell you what the F and the A stands for, but they all were, pulchritudinous and very heavy in the posterior area. So we used to call them the FA Brigade. The women who would have boasted in those times. and the Youth League. So automatically, as a woman, if you join the party, you automatically become a part of the Women's League. And if you're under the age of 25, you're automatically a part of the Youth League, whether you choose to act or not. No one can. You don't have to. Nobody can deny you access to the Youth League. Now, the youth officer, male and female, were guiding officers. They always were members of the executive of the party, and there was a male and female perspective. Somewhere there about in the early 2000s, we decided to merge both offices into one, because as we progressed and we realized there was not really a need to have a woman talk on behalf of women or men. In terms of men, I think just, as we progressed as a people in the Caribbean, we realized that a voice is a voice. And then we would have now consolidated into having a youth officer. So the youth officer is one of the officers, the national officers of the party, and therefore is an executive member of the party. And anything youth oriented in the party now becomes under his particular tenure. So the Youth League and the Youth League chairman, they more or less in some manner report to the youth officer. And then the Heliconia, although being an affiliate, it is a youth affiliate. So then the point of contact is the youth officer. And as my own, in my own exploits as youth officer, there is another bracket of people that I've attempted to engage, because we have a number of public people. And in this age, as social media and having what we call influencers and people who, big on the gram and they're on Facebook and they're on Twitter, there are a number of people who vote and support the PNM, but they most times are not engaged because they may not have signed a membership form before, or they may not have been engaged by the party, but they align with our ideologies. So I've had a number of soca artists, DJs, and those people who are influential like that to our youth come together and just form. We've formed an organization for them, but I ensure to become that conduit for them to be able to have access to, we are in government now. So those people just need access to information, or need to be guided correctly, or need to be connected. So, because what you don't want is that you don't want the nation's influencers, the people who are not necessarily partisan, taking a position against your political party because they don't believe it. So you want to be able to give them an opportunity for them to vent to you, so that you can change those things. So you find, we'd have from time to time some artists say, well, the government, the PLM, and so instead of them saying that in the public domain and having us run to recover on social media, I've created a conduit for them to be able to come directly to me and say, these are the things we need, this is what we need change, and I represent their interest to the party and to the government. I'm seeing Ms. Weber hands up again. Or is that enough, Omar? Does that answer your question?
Okay, so this is Comrade Weber here, not Ms. Weber.
Thank you, Comrade Ndale. Yes, you did.
Comrade Weber, sir.
Comrade Young, I just want to go back to ideology versus consumer, because this is really the theme around this particular conversation. And where you were responding to Comrade Newell a while ago, you spoke and you said the word ideology also. So clearly there's something there. And because I think we as a movement in Jamaica, we are working through how do we call ourselves now thing right now, because we're a Democratic Socialist Party and it's not sexy anymore. It has its negative labels with it. But the comrades who are older like myself, who's an elder, that's what we know. But then young people don't like the label. But you must have an ideology. Yes, it is that you may pick from pieces, but what is your position and how do you move? And maybe not necessarily how do you, but any thoughts about my ideology is X, and I have to now market myself to the different publics. And how do I do that? The older publics who probably comfortable with something, and the younger publics. How do you first? You must have an ideology. You must have something at the center of why you do everything. And then what is that for you as in your party? And then how do you market it, given that some people may not gravitate to the label, but they may gravitate to the activities under the label? That's my last question. I want to again.
No, you're free to ask. It's as long as the moderator will have you. I don't want to, because I've seen people, fall to the sword of the moderator, and I don't want to be one of those persons, because she's a fierce young lady. So I'm not going to violate in any manner. But let me just say this. Let me say this. Sometimes we're in the in the labeling of things, Comrade Weber, in the having to have that position, we lose people. How is it working out now? What is the PNP's ideology now, and how is it working out in finding that mesh? Because sometimes these concepts and ideologies has been developed in larger nations with policies that are with positions and policies that are made towards continents and large amounts of people. But because we are smaller in size and more intimate, a number of these things by label don't work. Simply because you may hold a particular position, but because your degrees of separation between the people that you have to govern and yourself is so tight, sometimes it's 1 or 2 degrees of separation between the candidate and the opposition, your policy moving forward on something may be in a particular alignment, you may be aligned left, but because an issue now comes up that you feel a particular way, your church, your family, you may sound like you're more middle right. And therefore, sometimes I think as a Caribbean, we prescribe to things that may not necessarily fit our bill. And we force a square peg into an oval hole. And it might fit, but I'm saying it's just not necessarily. I just saw a question come up, I think. Yeah, it's just not necessarily able to check all the boxes in terms of what we have in the nation. I just think it's time that we look towards what is required and then decide what our policy is moving forward, rather to hold a particular ideology and govern from that ivory tower space.
Okay, thank you. We'll just take one last question from
Well, I'm begging for 2 because I saw one in the text and I'm seeing a hand raise. So I'm just begging for 2.
it's not really 2. I think
Okay.
Comrade was making a comment based on
Okay.
what was said. Yes.
Yeah.
Comrade Chris.
Comrade Young, just a brief answer. What would be our role to engage youth in the diaspora in like the areas? Because I know that Trinidad has not as big as a diaspora as Jamaica, but nearly as big. What were the methods used to engage the diaspora over there? And what role did you all play to engage them?
I think the issue, Jamaica as a whole, I think is a pilot in terms of the engaging of the diaspora. And it comes from the patriotism of the country. What we struggle with here is, in some instances, people quicker identify as from somewhere else, or confuse sometimes ethnicity with nationality, and therefore become more of somewhere else and not a patriot, not a Trinidadian. And therefore engaging of the diaspora becomes that much harder, because you first have to say to them, this is your land. And the truth about it is, as long as you don't take ownership of something, if you borrow your friend's car, you're probably not going to treat it like your brand new car. And therefore, there are people in this country who, in their view, they don't necessarily own the place. They're just abiding. And therefore, when they're here, and I know you have those issues as well. And when you deal with people who are now foreign nationals and more national than foreign, but still a foreign mind, but living local and consuming locally and taking up so much of the GDP. And therefore the development is not seen here because they don't own it. So it's almost similar to to colonialism, where you own a space and India has just been depleted for the sake of England. And in so saying, I think the genesis of that is just increasing the patriotism of people to understand this is ours. And if it is yours, then the conversation becomes easier. Secondarily, I think sometimes our methods of engagement can be a little bit sexier. And that's why I have been on a bench to engage some of our more popular soca artists and some of our, radio personalities, and so to come and identify as PNM. And then now I can have through them the engagement in the diaspora be a more palatable conversation, because it's no longer a politician, I mean, you hear it in all the songs, even in Jamaica, the politician, they out and thief out everything and they take it and go on and lying politician boy and type of thing there. But I'm saying if we now engage those people and say to them, come, sit, speak, sincerely, not just for brownie points, sincerely. I think sincerity, innovation, and patriotism is how we engage the diaspora in a serious manner.
Very. Thank you, Comrade Young.
Thank you. I had said one last question, but I will make an exception given that President James has his hand raised, so I will allow for him to ask his question.
It's a very short one. Thank you very much, Comrade Moderator, Comrade Graham. A very simple one, though. In terms of looking at integration in the digital spaces, we are dealing with a aging focus group or focus area. What sort of role is it how is it that you manage that over in Trinidad with the Heliconian and so forth to manage that sort of integration between the digital and the analog that a lot of us have been used to?
Well, the saying is true. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. So I think a provisional, everything has been very event oriented or event focused, meaning there's always been before a duplicitous effort to catch the analog people with whatever, your contact by newspapers, by this, by that, and then you have your WhatsApp blast, anything for those other people. Now, this pandemic has brought everybody to a particular place or platform by the grace of God. I dare say that. Because now, even those older people who may be a little more hesitant and don't understand, they at least have to have a phone. Banking now has gone online and it's been a little bit harder for them to walk in. And because that the group that is totally void of anything digital is a smaller subset, because there are older people who are very savvy. And now, because it's necessary for them to engage, it's become a bit easier. But there's no way, there's no policy or no one thing that we've done that we've been able to have a catch-all circumstance that both old and young. So what we do is now, even in design of our app, our PNM app and that kind of thing, we keep the complexities, the front page complexities away. So when you engage, it's very simple. Click, buy, sell, very simple. Join. And then as you get into new users and so on, so in different parts of whatever your level of your platform is, then the complexities may come further down. So for a simple example is in terms of joining, sign up forms and that kind of thing online, instead of having these long complex forms, what we try to do is keep the forms, for registration very simple. And then if we have to do a follow-up email to get whatever other information we need, or to say, listen, and there's an automatic email that comes out after and say, please send us so on, so on and so forth. But the actual simple data is there. So I think to answer your question, there is no one catch-all to be able to increase, but it has become easier because, all right, so my aunt is 84. And, before she used to say, I don't really text. But now I get WhatsApp calls and I get things. And she said, the what is up, not the WhatsApp. She's on the what is up. And I say, what's up, Auntie Tekla? And she said, now the what is up. I came on the what is up and I type and I see your face, but I'm not hearing you. So now she's up to the point that she video calling her. So I feel like there is a natural push because of the circumstance for them. And if you engage them properly, but it has to be a concerted and consistent effort to just make things easier for them as they're engaging.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very engaging session. Ndale, I will just allow for you to give your closing remarks before I hand over to our comrade to move the vote of thanks.
Yes, ma'am. I think in closing, I want to thank, the comrade leader, first of all. I want to thank you, Mr. James, for inviting me. I want to thank Omar for always being a good friend all the way from Jamaica, and he's been in contact. And just the first time I met that gentleman, I think he had an awesome energy, and I knew that great things will be coming out from this arrangement. On behalf of the People's National Movement and our political leader, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, I just want to say thank you all, and continue to be good brothers and sisters. And I am not joking when I say I keep an open door policy. Whatever issues that you may have, even if it just means that we just have to bang our heads together, feel free to make the contact if there's a connection that you need in Trinidad, if it's something that we could source and send for you all because you're having problems to get it across there. We have those type of connections, and we look forward to coming. And I'm really cursing the pandemic because I had already planned, I already saw where I wanted to stay when I come to Jamaica. So I told them, I said, listen, I'm gonna go first to make sure everything is good in Jamaica for the Heliconians when they come across. So let me just go. I just go first and see, because you don't know, maybe something might go wrong. So I'm looking forward to come across to Jamaica on behalf of the PNM. But yeah, we just want to say that we're open. My number is 359-1868, 359-3806. I'm going to share that as immediately after in the vote of. So if you need to make direct contact, you can direct contact. I've opened my arms and the doors of Trinidad and Tobago to you all. You all are wonderful people. If you all open up to outside citizenship or dual citizenship, somebody send me a form, and I'll be there. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ndale. Thank you so very much. And it was a pleasure having you as well. And you are welcome to come to Jamaica anytime. You just need to follow the COVID protocols. You can, once you're fully vaccinated as well, your quarantine time is a little bit shorter, but we welcome you with open arms always. Thank you so very much. And without any further delay, I am happy to throw over to our Casey Osborne, who is the secretary for our St. James Parish. Over to you, Comrade Casey.
Good evening, comrades all, good evening. And I want to say thank you very much to everyone that contributed to the conference, and thank you for all your excellent work. That's for everybody. But let me just start out to our leader of opposition and party leader, our member of parliament for South St. Andrew, Comrade Mark Golding. I just want to say a hearty thank you for joining us this evening and participating. The Patriots have come a long way, and we've been fighting for affiliate status. We gained that, and I am grateful that you acknowledge our presence and our community to be a part of almost everything that we have invited you to. To our Senator Ndale Young, the youth officer of the PNP, Trinidad and Tobago, our valued guest speaker who has brought us so much insight. I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out to come and give us such insights, share with us what is happening as well in Trinidad and Tobago. We really appreciate you and your time and the time that you've spent speaking to us this afternoon. Let me also add to that, Comrade Shamari Hector, Chairman of the Heliconia Foundation. Thank you very much for contributing as well. We welcome your presence. We will extend the invitations again, I am sure, to other platforms that we may open up. The Honorable Bacchus Roll, MP Minister of the Youth and Sports, and for the PLP and that is the party in Bahamas, Mr. Ethan Ndale, Deputy National Treasurer of the FNM, our newly elected Patriot President, Comrade Lenroy James. It will be a pleasure working with you as it has been in the past. I look forward to continuing to work with you. To our immediate past president, it was indeed a great pleasure participating in the things that you had organized for us. You've taken us, the Patriots, a very long way. It would only be fair to conclude that our National Congress for 2021 was a well thought out one with the theme of political branding, ideology versus consumer. I believe that it was a great success. And I see that we have found many contributions that we can draw on in the future. And it is indeed my privilege to be offering the vote of thanks for, again, I would say the second Congress for the Patriots as an affiliate body to the PNP. I really do look forward to us working in the months to come. I believe that we have been tasked with so many things. It's a new era for us, and I must say that we really welcome the insights that have been presented here this evening. And I want to also say thanks to our chief in staff, our moderator. I would like to thank you, Odin Hamilton, who has been monitoring behind the scenes. I'm so sorry, I'm messing up your platform right now based on my technology and the challenges that have come with it. So we look forward to working with you, Lenroy, working with the new executives that have come in as vice president for the Patriots. And we want to say thank you to everyone that has participated this evening. Thank you to all our delegates and specially invited guests who have taken the time out to join us. I am indeed in awe of how many people have really reached out to support us. And I am very motivated in going forward as a Patriot to see how we can help the People's National Party continue to put people first. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you indeed, Comrade Casey. Thank you so much. And I just want to express my own thanks to all of us here, the hardworking team members who ably assist in making this the great production that it is, the committee that is small in number yet effective, my comms personnel, the technical support of Odin, and the rest of us. Great things can happen when obviously we work together, because we are powerful together. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, comrades all, let us play and sing our anthem from our hearts. Jamaica, arise.
The trumpet has sounded, my countrymen all, so awake from your slumber and answer the call. The torch has been lighted, the dawn is at hand. Who joins in the fight for his own native land? Land of my birth, I pledge to thee, loyal and faithful, true to thee. Oh, the toil will be heavy and the campaign long. The road will be dreary, the barrier strong. Our progress may falter and energies wane, but steadfast in spirit, although we will gain. Land of my birth, I pledge to thee, loyal, faithful, true to thee. In steadfast assurance that God will look down and give us his blessing our efforts to crown. Let all be united to build by his grace a nobler Jamaica, a loftier race. Land of my birth, I pledge to thee, loyal and faithful, true to thee.
Thank you very much once again, everyone. Have yourself a beautiful Sunday rest of the afternoon, and I look forward to your continued support as we journey along in rebuilding this wonderful movement and doing the work with the Patriots, the professional affiliates of the People's National Party. Have yourself a wonderful evening.
Imagine living in a world where there is no war, no, oh no. So pure. And imagine that everyone you see knows what he is living for. Oh, what a wonderful world it would be, a world of love and peace. Where no evil can abide, only righteousness increase. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we can do it if we only believe. Yes, we can do it if we only agree. It's your world and mine. Your world, yeah, yeah, yeah. Your world and mine. Your world and mine. Your world and mine. Your world and mine. Imagine that everyone could give as much as they like to get. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And imagine if everyone could learn to show each other respect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, what a wonderful world it would be for you and me. Yeah, yeah. Then even the blind could see, and the deaf man could hear. Boy, oh, yeah, yeah. 'Cause we can do it if we only believe. We can do it if we only agree. It's your world and mine. Your world and mine. Yeah. Your world and mine. Yeah. Your world and mine. 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 Yes, imagine that everyone could love the Most High as your Savior. And imagine if everyone could reverence the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Yeah, yeah. Oh, what a holy world it would be, a world of tranquility. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, what a beautiful world it would be, a world of serenity. Yes, we can do it if we only believe. We can do it if we only agree. It's your world and mine. Your world and mine. Your world and mine. Your world and mine. emotions and feelings all corresponding in love, compatible. You can't get around it no matter how hard you try. You better believe it. And if you should find out that you are no different than I, reply. We are the same person. I'll be me, you be you. We are same universal world. I'll be you be me. The only difference I can see is in the conscience and the shade of the skin. Doesn't matter. We laugh, we chatter, don't we smile? We all have hope in the feelings that make all those faces always renew. So true, so true. And would you believe that I have all those same feelings too? The same as you. We all are one. We are the same person. I'll be me, you be you. We are same universal world. I'll be you be me. We are the same person. I'll be me, you be you. We are same universal world. I'll be you be me. Look at the children, they're having fun with no regards to why. They all look different, but deep inside, their feelings of love they don't hide. They don't hide. They don't hide. They don't hide. We all are one. We are the same person. I'll be you. We all are one. Same universal world. I'll be you. You be me. We are the same person. I'll be you. No matter where you're born. We are same person. I'll be you. We all, you know, I know, we all know. Oh yeah, emotions and feelings all happy feelings with me again. Now that I have found a friend. Yesterday I was so lost, but today I found true love at last. Deep, deep in my heart, I would love again. Oh yes, we will make a new start, sharing love, sharing the very end. My new lover, my new friend. You bring joy and happiness to a soul who knows no tenderness. They may say you're no good for me, but the blind will never, never see. Oh,
joy and happiness to a soul who knows no tenderness. They may say you're no good for me, but the blind will never, never see. Oh, deep, deep in my heart, I believe I would love you. Oh, yes, we will make a new start, sharing love until God knows when. My new lover, my new friend. Whoa, deep, strong enough to give you a heart attack. The situation sweet, my soul.